Hey everybody, once again we are producing another video, and this time a little bit different. We've done mostly a lot of Kendrick Lamar, 3 out of the 6. We've done Alicia Cara, the NBA Finals, and we talked about what it means to be a father. Today a little bit different, but I'm trying with the hope of being able to put together 3 very different articles, 3 very different concepts, but show how they're all related clinically, how they all flow together. So here we go. One of the things that first I want to talk about is ISIS, which has been in the news tremendously the last couple of weeks, last couple of months, with the various gains that they've been making, what they've been able to do. I want to share with you an article I really liked about ISIS, and I want to kind of clarify how they're really not a terrorist organization, which they are, of course, but they're more than that. They have become a successful corporation by being innovative, creative, and adaptable. Before a battle, they get together and they scream out victory or martyrdom, pledging their allegiance to God and vowing never to retreat. What does that tell you? Goal-oriented. They know exactly what their mission is. Either we win or we die trying. There's no retreat, there's no backup, there's no tomorrow. We're in it for today. Confidence. They do it as a group. They're not single. Group, collective. How many guys on a football team? 11 on one side, 22 total, 45 on the team. Are you my brother? Are you looking out for me? How close are you to me? And these elite shock troops are excellent fighters. They're disciplined, they infiltrate targets, unleash mayhem, and they're not afraid if they're in trouble to blow themselves up, so that if they're facing defeat. They cause chaos and their main ground offensive begins, says Ridur Khalil, spokesman of the Kurdish People's Protection Units. Here's the thing also, best known for their horrific brutalities, they've proven to be highly organized and a flexible fighting force, according to senior Iraqi military officials and Syrian Kurdish commanders on the front lines. They're not ragtag. They got the right uniforms, they got the right weapons, they got the right leadership. They can hold their own. When you can hold your own, you have confidence. Tactics are creative. They use a sandstorm as a cover for an assault. Or they got a sniper that ties himself to the top of a palm tree. Its forces move back and forth between conventional and guerrilla warfare. They use suicide bombings as a battlefield tactic, and they are constantly working on them to make them better. Why? Because they want them to be more deadly and more effective. They recently beefed up the front part of the armor of the vehicles to prevent gunfire from killing the driver or detonating explosive prematurely. So a lot of their killings, everything, it's just a tool, just a tool, just a tool. You learn from what's effective, what's not. Recently in Egypt, there was a situation where they fired a missile from shore to hit an Egyptian Navy vessel and did a lot of damage to it. Creative, innovative. What can we do next? What can we do to create shock and awe and fear? Ongoing. They're adaptable. Here's something I found very interesting, and it's such a business perspective. This professor at King's College in London said ISIS local commanders are given leeway to operate as they see fit. They have overall errors on strategy and are expected to come up with the most efficient ways of adapting it. The group is very much success-oriented, results-oriented. Wow. Wow. Success-oriented, results-oriented. They know what they want. They rely on the locals, people on the ground, to make decisions nimbly and quickly, where the Iraqi and Syrian militaries cannot make direct action without direct approval from higher-ups. Takes too much time. The battle's over. The football game is over. The job is over. You got to make decisions quickly in life. They're fighters, highly disciplined. You desert from battle, you fall asleep, you're killed. Keeps you motivated. You're not going to go nappy time. We're not going to run if you know if they catch you, you're going to be killed. They have heavy weaponry. Why? They got it all free from Iraqi forces, which got it from us for free. So I guess everything's changing hands. So all that American hardware, heavy hardware, are now in the most effective terrorist force in the world. Iraqi Army General, his name is Abdul Wahib al-Sadi, said they can conduct multiple battles simultaneously. Enemy takes them for real. They realize these guys are good. Multiple battles. He says in the Iraqi army, we can only win one battle at a time. These guys, multiple. Even the group's atrocities are a part of tactic aimed at terrorizing its enemies and depicting itself as an unstoppable juggernaut. What do? They use social media. They love Twitter. They love anything to do with Facebook. And they love to post. The group, they boasted of killing hundreds of Shiites and Iraqi security forces, issuing photos of the massacre on Instagram. It beheads captured soldiers, releasing videos of the killings online, increasing its shock value. They'll do things like putting people in a cage to drown or blowing the heads off of other people. They use social media, Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, posting online. Their recruits love this stuff because you know why? It makes jihad look fun. It makes it look successful. So they use social media. They embrace it and they love it. Now here's another thing also. Their fighters come from around the world. They're supposedly between 30 and 60,000. Who do they get? Former army officers of ousted Iraqi dictator Saddam Hussein. And they get them from Europe, US, Arab and Central Asian nations, and they get veteran jihadis with combat experience in Afghanistan, Chechnya, and Somalia, brought valuable experience both in planning and as role models to younger fighters. You get these kids motivated, and the pros who have done it before. Excellent mix. Any good team that you'll see in any kind of sports will have a veteran mix of guys who've been around for a while and young kids. And the older guys give confidence to younger kids by showing them this is how it's done. So all these guys that are pouring in from these countries around the world that have years of experience in guerrilla warfare, they're saying, hey, my man, watch me, learn from the best, and you can create havoc and damage. That's what a successful company does. You have guys that are rising up the ranks who can say, hey, this guy has potential, I can mentor him, he got common sense, he's good. That's what successful people do. Here's another thing also. They tend to use their foreign fighters as suicide bombers. This person was saying is Patrick Skinner, former CIA officer who now directs operations for the Sufan Group, which is a private geopolitical risk assessment company. People go to the Islamic State looking to die, and the Islamic State is happy to help them. They're goal-directed. They give them what they want. You're not misled. You will come here to fight and ultimately to die, but you're going to die for a cause that you believe in. So martyrdom actually looks very, very appealing. Again, they don't change their message. They're consistent. That's what a successful business does. We know what our core audience is. We know what they like. We give it to them what they want, and we change it to make it appealing. Okay, here's another thing also. This happened in a battle in a town called Kobani. About 70 of them battled a much larger battled a much larger Kurdish force, not on a mission not to retake the town, but to cause chaos. They were all killed, all 70 of them, but not before killing 250 civilians. And they don't let defeat bother them. They lose, they adapt, they think, they move on. How many times are you around people where something happens negatively the first time and everyone's like, I give up. I give up. I give up. Okay, you've hit your baseline because you're going to give up. These guys don't give up. Even if they get slaughtered, they learn and they adapt and they go after it right away the next time. That's a successful company. So here's another thing also. They will never give up. They will literally fight to the end. Can you imagine having a company or a cause that you believe in so strongly that you will literally fight to the end? Not some nonsense like being a gangbanger per se, which is really only going to lead to death. It's almost senseless. But do you believe in something? What do you believe in? That's a question you ask people all the time. I ask as a social worker, what are your values? What are your goals? What do you believe in? Because if you don't believe in anything, you're a rootless person. And what ISIS gives people is a chance to feel I'm part of something bigger than myself, and it gives me confidence. Here's another thing also. Everything that they do is that you have to be creative when you're working against them, because they use suicide bombers as a normal facet of life. So if you can't be more effective than a suicide bomber who's willing to blow himself up and destroy himself in the process, you are never going to win. You will never take them out. And here's another thing also. I thought this is interesting. This guy attacked them. This guy, Lieutenant General al-Sadi, his people said, oh, just take a fast assault. He said, no, 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 no. He cleared roads of explosives and set up barriers against suicide attacks. It took him 3 weeks fighting the whole way, but you have to outthink your enemy to survive. You got to do it. Again, you're in a boxing match. Punch, counterpunch, counter, counterpunch. Can you be creative enough to think differently than the people around you? So what has ISIS done? They never stop changing. They're now using basically drones fitted with cameras to film enemy positions. Better equipment. He said, you know, you always have to think of when you're at war, always being different, always being different. For instance, this other general said that when the ISIS found out the military was listening on its radio frequencies, it switched but continued using the infiltrated frequencies to feed the military false information. You cannot be static or you go out of business or you die. You have to innovate, innovate, innovate. Even their food supply chains are better. They feed their people better than the ones in Syria or Iraq. Better food. Now here's the last thing. This was this guy Skinner who was saying that ISIS has its vulnerabilities. No air force, spies can infiltrate, also has internal strains. You know, he goes, I imagine it's probably the hardest organization to run because it's staffed with unstable, violent people. But guess what? No one really knows. No one's inside there thinking and command and control procedure house. No one has any clue on how they operate. Oh, sorry, it's one of our props that just fell. Here's another thing also I wanted to share. President Obama was telling people a few weeks ago that not to fear, that everything is going to be okay, and that they're going to keep on bombing using the drones, and that they destroyed thousands of pieces of military equipment, killed thousands of ISIS ISIS terrorists, kill, more troops to train. But here's the thing. He makes this comment, though. He said that when we have an effective partner on the ground, ISIS can be pushed back. And here's another thing, too, he said. We have to harness all different types of values, not just military, but also intelligence, diplomatic, economic development, and perhaps more importantly, the power of our values. This is a different kind of terrorist organization. Again, they're goal-directed, they think heavily, they're creative, and they move on. People who live in both countries, Shiites, they're very happy. I'm sorry, and that's the Shiites who live there, but the Sunnis are the ones that have been oppressed. They like the Islamic State. They like ISIS. Here's another thing, too. He said, I've lived under the Free Syrian Army, FSA, to fight the Syrian government. He said, they're like the regime. They're thieves. Under the Islamic State, life can be brutal, but at least it seems more stable for those who avoid crossing the group's leaders. The Taliban did the same thing 20 years ago. They took power, very religiously oriented, very powerful, but guess what? People were under their influence until the United States arrived in 2001. And John McLaughlin, who was director of the CIA, deputy director, said he realized that, ISIS has to go because it's so evil and so terrible. The answer is, no, it doesn't. They can last. They can make it happen. Here's another thing also. We in the West think that insurgency and counterinsurgency is a battle for hearts and minds. We're realizing that's not true. We forget how many states have been established to just brutal, sheer force. We're the biggest, we're the baddest, and for us to keep on showing that to you, we're more than happy to do so. So you like to think that treating people well and good governments goes hand in hand. It's not the case, And he said that people are happy because they can live in peace. They're not paying the bribes. They're not being shaken down. They got to wear certain clothes. They got to pray a certain way. But they feel the rules are fair for everybody. When you're in business and you're working with employees, you got to set the tone. You can't play favorites. And you have to have people that understand what their role is and what their role isn't. They said like this guy named Hassan Abul Hanania, Jordanian authority on jihadi group, said, the judicial system is swift and effective. The locals find stability in ISIS, and briberies and corruption are barely heard of. And here's the last piece. He says if they moderate a little bit what they're doing, they could sense this could settle, and this could be the new reality. The new reality of ISIS becoming a real state. Now, just to go up with a couple of things that just happened recently, 3 weeks ago, ISIS rebels shot a rocket from shore that barely damaged an Egyptian vessel. They had to get towed back. And then this past week, they caught them with a document, a 40-page document that talked about destabilizing India, killing Indian and American military people and political people, and causing like grave conflict in that part of the world. Of course, everyone was like, oh, it can't happen, we're in charge, we're too tough. You got to give people confidence. And that's really my whole piece, what I want to try and tie in together. When you don't have confidence, when you feel like the deck is stacked against you, of course you can't go further. Of course you're going to have the PTSD and the violence, no role model. These guys from ISIS, okay, I borrowed them from my son, so I apologize. ISIS, they're getting people to come from around the world to join. Who does that? Can you think of any corporation that has people joining itself because it's so amazing? Maybe a few that stand out. But overall, where do you get people that are willing to betray their families, their spouses, their parents' future in America or Europe or Asia, and join for one reason only, to martyr yourself? They believe. When you believe in yourself, when you have the ability to believe in yourself, and you have people that say, hey, I got the experience, my friend. I've been doing this for a while. I'm a professional jihadist. Things can happen. Now, was that paper kind of audacious? Was kind of off the chart? Yeah, that's what you got to do. I mean, it sent ripples throughout the Western world. Like they're actually that confident that they can destabilize a country the size of India or create huge swaths of trouble. That's amazing. When those guys from Miami made that comment to the athletic director, we don't need a brand new coach. Give us an assistant. We can run it ourselves. And they showed that they could the next few seasons. Wow. That's when they were in their glory. And the players said that 3 or 4 guys on that team were the true leaders, the true coaches per se. Nothing fazed them. They would call meetings together, bring the players together. Hey, you're not doing this, you're not doing this. The confidence. These ISIS guys are having people coming across the world and saying, hey, what can I do to help? What can I do to be part of this? I want in on this because I respect your mission that you guys are doing. You guys are confident. You guys are winners. I want to be with a winner. And every other week, attacking an Egyptian Navy vessel, having a 1,500-pound car bomb. How could you not be successful? Next article is about what happened in Baltimore over the summer, which we talked about a little bit briefly before. I want to share a couple things about what poverty does to people. Here's what happens. For example, very poor families worldwide spend more of their income on alcohol than are educating their children. And in central Kenya, a number of years ago, a government study found that men, on average, spent more of their salaries on alcohol than on food. And guess what? This is a huge shock. I know you're all going to be surprised. Poverty and mental health go together like a hot dog and a bun. They go together. Really? What a shock. Who would have thought that? They found that people who are living in poverty are twice as likely to have been diagnosed with depression as other Americans. 55% of American babies living in poverty in 2001 were raised by mothers showing signs of depression. Wow. Am I surprised from my thousands of assessments? Absolutely not. I see this all the time. Here's another thing. The journal JAMA Psychiatry said millions of low-income Americans suffer from parasitic infections. The things called toxoplasmosis and toxoplasmosis, cognitive impairment, or mental health disorders. Your brain grows differently. It grows with cracks, fissures, black spots. The neurons are not firing correctly. Why? It's not a healthy brain. It's a sick brain. Sick brain from living in poverty, day-to-day grind. This one doctor says that 12 million Americans living in poverty suffer from at least one neglected parasitic or tropical disease. And who gets affected by this? Mostly people of color. Wow, what a shock again. You live in poverty, your life is going to be very, very, very unpleasant, and your own brain is going to be affected by what you see and deal with on a daily basis. Very, very unhappy. And if you grow up with mental health problems or traumas such as domestic violence, you're more likely to have trouble in school, self-medicate, trouble in relationships. Strong association between poverty and low mental health. And here's another thing too. When you're elevated levels of stress, you have a thing called cortisol, which is a stress hormone, meaning you're less likely to delay gratification. So if you say things like, put your money in the bank, don't just spend your money on something stupid, lottery tickets, which the poor are the ones that spend the most on that. You can't save for a rainy day because every day it's raining. It's raining unhappiness, it's raining misery, it's making you unhappy. You can't think to get ahead. And that's what cortisol does to you. It raises your cortisol levels and are more prone to bad choices. And this is what is going on. So for people who live in poverty, neglected, inner city, people of color, i.e. minorities, the deck is already stacked against them before they even started. It's like you're going up against a dealer playing 21, he already has 21. How are you going to win? You can't. Your brain is literally affected if you're a person of color and you live in poverty, and if we do a CAT scan or an MRI, your brain will look differently than a healthy brain of someone feeling, I have purpose and value in life. Amazing, but not really surprising. But now people begin to understand some of the bigger causes of it and what really goes on. In Baltimore, about how people struggle to get through the day. Half of all babies living in poverty were raised by moms showing signs of depression. Not moms and dads. These are single moms. They're depressed. I see this every day when I do my assessments, when I go onto the field and I meet single women, and I meet single women of color who will tell me it's a living hell in so many words when you don't have any options. You don't have a stable husband or boyfriend that's working full-time, bringing home money full-time. I got no one to rely on. I got to rely on that stupid cycle of Section 8, WIC, EBT cards, CPS coming to my house a million times a day. Oh, we're taking the baby out. We're taking the baby in. Foster care, non-foster care. I've been to all these places. And you get sucked into that because your brain is become dysfunctional. It's like you got to take a Hoover vacuum, or I'm sorry, Tyson, whatever, current, and suck out all the poison you've been subjected to so you can have the confidence in yourself that you never had. So when I go in the house, I'm like, damn, can't they pick up the garbage? Can't they clean up after the dog? Can't they pick up the baby and give it a kiss? They're catatonic. They're like this. I get it. You got to put years into these people, literally years, because they're so rusty, they're so corroded with the poisonous of mediocrity, of no big dreams, that they've gone nowhere. And that's so understandable to me now, and I get it. When I hear people say to me, oh, minorities are lazy and stupid, and they don't want anything anymore. All they do is kill themselves and kill each other and crime on crime. I get it. When you're living like that, when that's your only wake up in the morning, you know automatically it's going to be a bad day. It is not going to be a good day. So you're prone to, what a shock, alcohol and drug use, overeating. How many heavy people have I met in inner cities? Huge. Everyone is dealing with diabetes, obesity, because they're shoving in that food to feel better about themselves. I get it. It makes sense. I'm going to go now to my third article. A woman is a thing called the Aspen Ideas Festival. And the question is, of course, is where are Americans going to get jobs? I live in Las Vegas. It's amazing how many people work as contractors here. And I'm sure it's not just Vegas. I'm sure it's around the country, around the world, where you don't have to provide health insurance, no vacation time, no sick time. In a sense, you're the master of your own domain. But, excuse me, if you don't produce, if you're not successful, hey, it's on you. So where are all the jobs going? Because so many people today are working multiple jobs just to try and make one salary. This professor, Zeynep Tom at MIT, said this: if companies provide employment to these employees a decent living, not just pay, but also a sense of purpose and empowerment at work, that's ISIS. A sense of purpose and empowerment at work, guess what? Can be every bit as profitable as companies that strive to keep their labor costs low by paying the minimum wage with no benefits. No benefits. And that's called human-centered operations strategies. And they found this out. She found out that American companies are getting goods from China to their stores. But once the product gets here, the workers are so unmotivated, they didn't care, and they put out an inferior product. So what happened is that, promotions in stores weren't happening in a timely manner, and people were not moving forward with moving merchandise. So she realized this. She talked to the companies. The company said to her, we know this. We're not stupid. But we pay our people so little. Why? Because if they pay so as little as they can, labor is such a big part of their ownership and their overhead. So pay people little, bring the goods in, the goods don't move, you fire the people, lay them off, put them on contract. It's a revolving door. But people don't have a sense of purpose and don't have a feeling of goodness about themselves that, hey, what I do has value, what I do has meaning. So this professor wanted to look for two companies, well, not two, but she found two companies that did things differently. And sure enough, she found some. Quick Trip does 700 roughly stores, and their assets are $11 billion. Mercadona has a turnover of 4%, which is unheard of in the food business. They get decent salaries, 4 weeks of training, and the opportunity to thrive in front of their customers every day. In the grocery business, that's a low margin business. 1-2% of what you sell is what you keep in the end. If they wasn't working, they wouldn't be doing this. Clearly, happy employees boost sales. Quick Trip also does this. They're cross-trained. They can do different jobs. They can solve problems by themselves. Solve problems by yourself. You don't have to wait for management to give you 2 weeks of no comments before you move on. And as a result also is that they can make merchandising decisions for their own stores. So you give higher wages, but costs go down everywhere else. And stores and products don't remain in the back room, and in-store promotions take place when they're supposed to. And she's saying is that every company would be better served by this approach. And when you treat people with respect and dignity and hope, they move forward. They're successful. In closing, we want to do these 3 different articles, 4 different pieces of information to show again how everything is clinical. We're going to keep on breaking this kind of stuff down to you each and every week. We're not going to do a video each and every week. We got more videos coming up. We're excited where we're going. We're excited with the number of views that we got, but we want more from you. Any thoughts, any comments, anything, negative, positive, we want to hear from you. That's it from now. Thank you for watching, and please send us your comments. Take care.